Okay, folks, welcome to the session. It is my pleasure as a guest hostess to welcome everyone in and get started with this awesome presentation from Tabitha, Miriam and Miranda from Unitec, which is based in New Zealand. I have been lovingly stalking all three of these ladies through Moodle.org for quite some time now. They always ask the best questions. They respond to other people asking questions. They are awesome Moodlers. I can't wait to hear from this session. Take it away, ladies.
Hello. I believe I'm starting. My Miriam, and hopefully I'm the right way. That's Tabitha, and that's Miranda over on the end there. And thank you for that lovely introduction. Yes, we work for Unitec, and we have had the pleasure, maybe, of going through the process of implementing institutional Moodle standards and templates at Unitec. We work in the sort of the Pukunui team, which is the learning and team there at Unitec, and so we're also by default ended up being the Moodle help desk and Moodle everything else people. So from one of the presentations earlier today, other people understand how that's.
Okay, so Unitec.
Yeah.
So there's mostly a New Zealand-based learning institute. They've got multiple campuses around Auckland, the biggest city in New Zealand. But they also have partnerships internationally. So the biggest campus, which is, this is a photo from in Auckland, is historically was a mental institution. Most days we still feel it is, but moving on from there, we try to help people as best we can with using Moodle well. And one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was using Moodle to a consistent minimum standard. We have around 1,800 courses. There's more than 10,000 students per semester. We offer around about 160 programs in a broad range of disciplines, from architecture, nursing, captive wild animals, civil engineering, boat building, media design, you name it, we probably teach it. There's also 1,100 staff, so that's quite a lot of people for us to work with.
All right, shall I take over for the third slide? So what we're going to talk about today is, first of all, why we needed the Moodle Standards project, how we divided the project into 3 stages, and we're currently kind of at the end of stage 1 and moving to stage 2. Then how we supported staff, so what we put into place to give the best support and get the project known. And since this presentation is called Lessons Learned, we're going to tell you about the good outcomes and the bad outcomes, and also where we're going next with our stage 3 and what we've got in place with stages 1 and 2 being on the go. So the why we needed this, Miriam?
So yeah, why we needed this is because this was not an uncommon look, and sadly, although that is reduced, across our Moodle courses. I did make a little note saying that having seen a lot of courses like this, I feel that a lot of our problems might be solved by removing the highlighter button on the Moodle toolbar. But unfortunately, only one of the small problems. Yeah, they just like this. The font color button, yes, the whole toolbar. Unfortunately,
we've lost Miriam.
Yeah,
You can't just go ahead and things like that.
yeah, I think we've lost Miriam, apparently. Another familiar site that probably everyone is, it's used to is the file dump. That's also something we wanted to solve. And just a very big example. We have places where you just can keep going on and on and on and on in one course. So yeah, high time to do something about it.
You note that when we look at these, we are not seeing. Sorry.
Sorry,
We're not seeing any
back?
structure. Yeah, we're not seeing any structure that helps students to recognize what's happening for them. And the learner experience isn't a fantastic one when they can't find things. They don't often know what the learning outcomes are of the course, where to find assessment, when their assessments are due. This isn't useful for them in terms of navigating through their course, knowing what resources to use when. So we really wanted to look at it as not just pretty colours and making things all look the same, but providing learners what they need so that they can have successful outcomes from their learning.
All right, we're not sure whether this is going to work. So we had 3 stages in our project, and luckily we had a quite new colleague in our team who's very keen on making little cartoon videos and also very nice graphics. And so we had a lot of, let's say, marketing around the project. And we'd like to just show you this little video because it was really handy for us to present the project in a very quick and nice way to people. I'm going to try this. Can you share our screen? Anyone had an idea how we do this? Tabitha?
So this cartoon is not working.
No, when I click this, it opens. Unfortunately, it opens in another browser window.
Okay, no, don't know.
Okay, so we'll put it in our resources so you can have a look at it.
I don't see the share desktop button.
There's a share desktop
Oh,
button
okay. Oh, good.
Where?
by the share webcam button.
Oh.
You
Yeah,
guys
no.
not see it?
No.
Okay, I have it, but I keep getting booted from the room, so I'm probably not the best to be playing the video.
Okay, I have it. Okay, so. Oh, don't know what you can see. What can you see?
Just a room. So we leave people to play it. Yeah, I don't have it. I don't seem to have that button.
Is there something that you've forgotten to click allow on, Tabitha?
No idea. There's actually nothing
Oh,
on the
you
screen.
need a window, apparently.
Okay.
Oh.
What now? Oh.
Okay. So we just move on, maybe.
We're just going to move on because this is not working.
Yeah, okay. All right. Who wants to start with this? I'm happy to explain. So our implementation of stage 1. Our implementation of stage 1 was based on 3 principles, 3 big principles, because we wanted to make stuff easy for people. So the screenshot you see here is from a self-paced resource we made for people in Articulate Storyline. So people could kind of walk through after they've seen the presentation from us and after they've gone through a workshop to review stuff. So we separated it out in 3 big principles. The first one was that we wanted to separate course information from course content. And as Tabitha explained with the examples we saw before, there was often one big muddle up between where students needed to be, towards what assessments are, readings. It was all mixed up in the Moodle course. So we wanted to change that as a simple separation, so the navigation would at least be similar in all courses. Then we wanted to make sure that all essential information was in the courses, so we created some kind of a compulsory list of these things absolutely need to be in there. And then the last one was actually a very large one, is to just have best practice web design for a clear and consistent course, so where we taught them some principles to work around. Tabitha.
So separating out the course content from course information. So we wanted for students to always know who their teacher was. Because we give students access to their course a week before the start date, being able to see who their teacher is quite helpful, and especially when there might be more than one teacher, so they can see who they were talking to. So we asked teachers to put in the Moodle profile block with contact details, an HTML block with course information, so that you could quickly identify what the learning outcomes of a course were, and find assessment information. Make sure that they used the news forum for announcements. We found when we were running training that a lot of staff didn't even know the difference between the news forum and the other forums. They were assuming that students could respond if they'd written in the news forum. So lots of issues for us to address. And yeah, presence of the compulsory minimum information, making sure that they always had that.
Yes, the use of the news forum was also important because the teachers were putting all their announcements just on the page. So if they had something important to say, they would just put it on top of the page in red highlight, or they would just go to the topic they were teaching that week, which might be like miles down the page, and then announce there that they wouldn't be there that day for the lecture. Or so messages would be, were very much lost to the student.
And cluttering up the page.
Yeah. I've lost my arrows.
Miriam, next slide.
Oh, I have presenter. Excellent. Okay, so in amongst all of that and getting the teachers to separate their content from their course information, that was all good. But one of the things that was still a struggle is making sure that everything looked consistent, clear and correct and clean. And so we these out there as sort of the 3 C's to try and stick to. That making sure that you are using a consistent use of colours and images, of course. So things like if you have your headings in a dark navy blue, make sure that's consistent throughout the whole course. It gives a sort of uniformity and to the course that makes it all look like a cohesive unit. Not using every single font, although Moodle does only have a very few fonts in that drop-down menu, still trying not to use all of them on the same page, preferably, would be good. I say that very dryly because people did. And then images, we get that people want to spice up their course and all that sort of stuff, but people are chucking a mixture of photographs and clip art and cartoons, and everything just didn't look very consistent quite often. So people would put images in each of their topic boxes to spice up the topic box, but there was no consistency to any of those images. They all looked different. And it just made the course page look messy rather than interesting and fun. So that was sort of
didn't.
Yeah.
And the images didn't have any copyright. Oh, thanks, Maureen. Yes.
Attribution.
Attribution. They didn't have attribution.
And that was an interestingly big conversation to have. They were like, how do you attribute images? And it's like, okay, let's go through this. So yeah, quite often these turned into conversations around copyright and attributing an image to Google, where you found it, is not right. And
what is that noise? Oh dear.
It's Miranda typing.
Yeah.
And so saying the source of the images.com isn't right either, and trying to even use the Google image search to at least attempt to find the original source of an image, and even going so far as to say is if you can't find the original source of an image, you might be better off using a different image that you can find the original source of that you're allowed to use, rather to be than just keep reusing it that everyone else is using it, so it's like, nah, it doesn't quite work that way.
We've had some really great learnings from this, haven't we? We've had the opportunity to teach people a lot of different skills. So not only are they improving the way things look and work and function for the students, but we're actually noticing people are asking more questions about how the editor toolbar works, how they use Wikimedia and Flickr and other sites that we can integrate it into Moodle, so that they're actually starting to think about how they teach students these things as well. So that's quite exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the second, which is all about clarity. And so it's trying to get rid of these long, waffling descriptions around what they're supposed to do for this particular task or this particular assignment, or this long, waffling introduction to the course, and making sure that you are putting things concise, you are writing for the web, and that you're not cluttering up your page with these long descriptions. So if you do want to have an involved welcome message, then put it into a page so that it's more click and reveal, so that they just see the text link or a button that says welcome, and they click on that and it reveals the longer, more wordy welcome message. And also making good use of the topic sections within Moodle, and especially the show only one topic per page to help clean up the main course page so that they click on the topic to reveal what's actually inside of the topic. And just a few little tricks like that can really help make a course look a lot clearer, a lot cleaner, and just it's so much less crowded. Anything further to add about that point?
No, that's fine.
And then the last point was correct. And spelling and grammar, you'd think, being a tertiary institute, our lecturers would be able to spell, and most of it's typos. But and one of the things I pointed out during the sessions is that I can look over something I've written, and I would consider myself quite a good speller. Reasonably good at grammar and all that sort of stuff. And I can look over a piece of text that I've written 100 times and not see the error because I see what I intended to write. So the point of correct spelling and grammar was to have someone else who hadn't written it to have a look over and check to see that everything was correct and you didn't have. I think the example that I used was I had spotted that someone had missed some vital letters out of the word assignments, and it was like arsements or something like that, and that just wasn't a good look. So, and then the other part of checking that things are correct is checking regularly that all your links to external resources, all your external URLs, that blog post that you thought was brilliant that your students should read, that article, that they actually still all work. Because there's nothing more frustrating for a student than going through trying actually to do the right thing and do the readings and get the information, and coming up against that wall of 404 errors and this file is no longer available and things like that, because it makes it more difficult for them, and then they come back to the lecturer. So it doesn't take long for the lecturer to go through and just check that all their stuff still works. So that's part of the correct thing. Make sure everything in your course is correct.
So you can see this leads in nicely to encouraging people to moderate each other's work and to good conversations around what is best practice, developing your teaching practice.
Right around I'm just turning over the basics of good web design. One of the things was the organization of resources, because we did realize that we weren't going to convince them to put less on their page, so at least we would get them to organize. So the organization of the resources as a first step, where we focused on 2 elements that they could easily use, because we also needed to keep the learning quite low-key, not to throw a lot of different Moodle activities at them, but to teach them some essential things that they could immediately use. And so the simplest was obviously to say, okay, you've got a lot of files, let's organize them into different topics and put them in folders. And the next one, which was for many people a revelation, was to use Moodle pages and books to get their elements that they had on the front page, like YouTube movies, plus a resource, plus something to read plus some extra text, to put them all into a page to create actually a learning object that had some mixed media and provided context around them, instead of being separate links. And so one of the skills we taught a lot of people around that is that you can actually make pages that live in orphaned sections on your Moodle page, and that you can link to them to make a more a clearer overview of things if you want to link things with words. Yeah, so that, sorry, I don't seem to have my arrows anymore, so someone else has to go and the next slide in. Yes. All right, so the support for stage 1 was very, very extensive. So we couldn't show you the Powtoon, but we had a little marketing video. We had little posters that were on department rooms that one of our colleagues put up. We had a very extensive Moodle course where people could find the official standards documents, but also self-paced resources, e-learning objects to go through. We had a very large offering of workshops for people to come to, so all-comers workshops and departmental workshops. And they were actually, we didn't officially do that, but people seemed to think they were compulsory, which helped us very much, because we had loads of people turn up. So that was really, really good. Yeah.
Of our 1,100 staff, we had 190 register for the workshops in 2014, and then we had another 60 attend coming back in the new year, and then another 30 or 40 in March. So we've had huge numbers, the biggest numbers we've ever had for workshops.
Yeah, because these were the people officially registered for the all-comers workshops, but there were loads of departmental workshops and where we helped smaller groups from departments. So we actually reached a lot of people, and obviously some of the people that came to the workshops then took it to their department and didn't really involve us. If someone felt comfortable enough with Moodle, they would just get their department through things. We also did some spot checks of courses and then often offered help to people if we saw that they weren't really getting there. We asked the programs to kind of officially declare on paper, to kind of declare like we've done stage one, we're finished. But so in general, I think the important thing was that we've got a very, very strong institute backing, and that it was advertised everywhere and endorsed. And it wasn't just an initiative from the, let's say, the Moodle help desk people or from the academic advisors. It was stronger than that, and that's why I think there was such a big uptake.
Right. So this slide, the uphill battle, do we win? So there was a large uptake of the first part of stage one, which was sort of the general spring clean of your courses and trying your best to make sure that you're separating course content from course information, and all that sort of stuff. But the web design part of it, so the being distant and making things look nice, was a lot harder to get across. And so people who did a lot of work cleaning up their courses, they've sort of deteriorated again during Easter. It's like Miranda stated it today, which I thought was a great strategy. It's like doing a really thorough clean of your house and then letting the dog back in with dirty paws and tracking mud all through it all over again. So the examples that were shown at the start, they were screenshots taken now. So they're not screenshots from how things were before, they're screenshots of current courses. So it's a little bit, as the courses get used, more stuff gets put in and it's not always put back in the right place. So it maintenance of the cleanup that you did, it seems to be a bit of an issue that we're having.
You got the controls, Miriam?
Yes, please.
Go.
Go. And so one of the intents was after stage one, after they'd done the cleanup of the course, of each of their individual courses, then programs and or whole departments, depending on how, because everybody's organised differently at Unitec, would get together and decide a consistent and common look and feel that they would have for their courses. We've been getting feedback from students for years saying that they find it difficult going into one course and finding this and that all in that place, and then going into a different course and being able to find that action or finding it in completely different places. So why?
You there, Miriam? Nope.
Oh, okay. Shall we continue then? I might be the heavy typist. I don't know, as I just answered Nick.
Okay.
We quickly go into Nick's question. So we had people protest a bit, but since we worked rather with principles than with strong templates and guides of things they had to follow, I think we reduced the resistance, especially from people who already did quite a good job in Moodle. So it was more like, okay, you have separated course content from course information. You've got everything in there that needs to be there. Navigation's good. It's clean. It adheres to best web design principles. So your course is okay. and we don't really care that it looks completely different from someone else in the institution, it is a really good course that your students can easily follow. So that's where I think we reduce the resistance, especially from the funny thing is the resistance mostly comes from people who have the most awful course and think it's brilliant, but I think everybody probably recognizes that kind of reaction. Yeah.
The other thing to note is that we recognize and verbally explain that we do recognize different groups of students have different needs. So it's actually okay that your courses look different if you teach this subject versus this subject. Your student body looks different, they're different ages, they're different, they've got a totally different graduate profile. What's important to them will be different. So it's about meeting the needs of your students.
Okay. So these are two of our template examples. So as you can see, they're quite simple. So we had basically, if you look at it, 3 or 4 templates, because we would have one with buttons, one that was just text-based, one that was based on the grid format. But so for the button ones, for example, we had a lot of options and examples for people to choose from, and we also offered them the opportunity to create their own template as long as it adhered to our principles, and that we gave it some kind of a approval, even though we don't really have the endorsement for that, but we strongly encouraged people to share things with us to discuss. Tabitha, can you? I always seem to lose the arrows on the bottom of my screen.
Yeah,
So
we should have put it up here, but we forgot to. But we should give them a checklist that help them to tailor their template design for their students. So getting them to ask in their department some sort of just open for it now. Ask themselves questions about what matters to their student group, so that they are designing their template to meet the needs of the student body. So they would start by discussing what their program requirements are as a team, and working through a series of questions, and then design a template with a bit of help from us as a team, so that they owned it. It meant there was more buy-in from the teachers because they were more involved. We asked them to get a feedback on their design as well, check accessibility and colorblind and all that sort of, stuff, and then get their final template signed off by their program committee before importing it across all the courses. And then just continuously bringing it into a cycle. So you're always asking the students for feedback. Is this working for your student body? We gave them a deadline for that, and that was for them to have implemented this by the end of the year. And we've got some examples.
Yep. So this is one of our, let's say, more brilliant examples where from this Department of Construction, someone who's really interested in graphic design as well, and I think that came up somewhere in the chat, made a very beautiful template for their courses. So most of their courses now look that way, and it's really nice for students to navigate. But so as you see with those, so they needed to get people to clean up their course first to be able to apply this template and follow certain guidelines. The next one is...
So the next one is from one of our other departments, where they follow quite a different system to a lot of the other departments which follow. These are the courses that all the students who are enrolled in this program do. These guys do a lot more flexible pathways through learning and all that sort of stuff. So they needed to have a simple look and feel to their courses, and so they sat down with me and just came up with a bunch of buttons that were going to go down the side on one type of course, a banner title that they were all going to use, and all that sort of stuff. And so they didn't want to get too complex with theirs, and they're actually managing all those buttons themselves, which is nice. So they built the capability along with some help from us to manage that template completely themselves.
But the next one will scare you. It can also go completely wrong. So, yeah, quite a bit into the process. We were thinking that one of our programs was, they said, like, oh, well, yeah, we've made our own buttons and we're now all using them. And one day when a colleague and I were working with them, one of the lecturers opened their course, and we had a very hard time keeping our face serious. Because obviously they had done what we asked, but yes, well, I can't say much more. So it's still something that we have under discussion, like exactly what do we do with this? How do we not hurt their feelings in a way? Because the person who was doing this was actually very proud of it, and the whole department had taken over these Christmassy buttons, and actually this was a lecturer who even added some clip art to it as well. So yeah, it's still a bit under debate, so we try to kind of give them hints on maybe this doesn't work very well for people who are colorblind, and try to kind of find an entry via accessibility to help them make a better graphic design. So yes, it doesn't always go the right way. Tabitha? Oh, is Miriam still there, or is she gone again? I can't hear anyone, so I'll continue.
Hi.
Oh, yeah, dear. Okay.
So Stage 3 is about actually using our online tools well. I'm slightly distracted because the baby's screaming, sorry. It's about talking about pedagogy, and so we started to think about what we can do in this. We haven't begun working with staff in any real depth yet on Stage 3, but we built our first workshop this last week before, where we ran a session on collaborating using Moodle in one of our new prototype teaching spaces. So Miriam, Miranda and I spent a morning going, right, what would we do? And tried to showcase different ways that you could get students collaborating well using Moodle. We can probably even share that course in this forum, I'd say. Miranda, can you talk? I think I have to deal with the baby.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so this Stage 3 actually is linked at Unitech at a completely new learning and teaching strategy, which is an enormous project, which has, let's say, a bit crossed paths a bit with what we're doing with the standards. It's an enormous project that's also linked to a property project. So in the future, we are going to have different learning rooms, and there's going to be a reduction of lecture theaters and a reduction of space to do, let's say, large classroom teaching. So in general, we are moving to models with more blended learning, active learning in spaces with more computers and collaborative spaces for people to work together. So the courses have to go towards a different design. So these Moodle for collaboration workshops and working with all kinds of activities in Moodle are going to be really important in our new model. So we've got a big amount of work ahead. Now something else that's in the pipeline is that we've got a big unit that's going to be there for about a year and a half or 2 years. It's going to design courses. So we actually have our project of Moodle Standards, which is now being absorbed, I guess, into a larger learning and teaching approach, where we will have a whole number of course designers that are going to work over 2 years to create hopefully beautiful and very well designed courses. Tabitha, you want to?
I'm back.
You're back. So I just explained, I just explained how this is now being absorbed in a very large kind of teaching and learning project where we're going to go towards more blended learning approaches, and so it's kind of being absorbed into a larger institutional direction.
It'd be really good to hear if there's any questions from anybody, or
And if I can stay in the room long enough to ask questions.
So has anyone had similar attempts in their institution or planning to do something similar as our Moodle Standards project, where you try to give people guidelines around their courses that are kind of compulsory? Seems like we've been very clear.
Question on upgrading. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, there's lots of things that are wrong with using images and tables. The grid format is definitely the better way to go because it's supported. And you don't have to worry about screen readers trying to understand and read out what's in the table, things like that as well.
I know that we upgraded from 1.9 to 2.2 and then upgraded from 2.2 to 2.5. So we're now running on 2.6. 2.6?
Unsupported.
I know that from 1.9 to 2.2 there were heaps of issues. Sections were linked. The URLs.
We also have had problems in the past with upgrading because of poor practice, whereas teachers have been copy pasting things from Word or Microsoft Word, or dumping stuff that they find elsewhere, and Moodle not quite knowing what to do with it. So we've had problems in upgrading with that. So trying to help people to do a better job of maintaining their courses in general, developing courses and maintaining them, is helpful for many, many reasons. One of the other things we talked about doing was removing a lot of the choices so that you didn't have a drop-down list where you could choose what font you wanted. We just have unisex fonts. So doing things like that where you don't let them change the size of their font. We haven't done it yet. We're sort of trying to work out whether we should do things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that I really really try to bring home during the workshops was the ease of use of the courses, not only for the students, but only for themselves. And so one of the things I try to make them see that is if you use the inbuilt styles from the editor, it's way easier to keep that consistency, and you don't have to remember like, oh, it was 14 points pink for my first titles and so on. And then especially since the WYSIWYG doesn't always turn out the way you thought it was going to look, or there's a certain formatting that they can't get away unless they go into the HTML. There was actually a lot of people were really happy to learn about those paragraph and heading examples. So to make their own work easier. So it was actually an easy entry for some things. Yes, the sentence David here about the Moodle page, Maureen, that's very strong. It's Unitech. People have put a lot of work in things and often like all the little images and colors they've used. And so the only way that we got it through, unfortunately, with a number of people, was to say that it is required by the institution, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sort of double-edged sword, because you usually want people to be very sensitive about their Moodle pages, because you want them to be proud of their work, engaged, excited about working on their pages themselves. We don't have course designers telling people this is how you'll teach and this is what you'll teach at the moment. So I think it's quite good if you can capture that enthusiasm to own their own work and help direct it so that they get the best results they can for their students. OHPs. I don't know. Do you agree, Miranda and Miriam?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I think in general it's been and it still is quite a good process. We've achieved quite a lot of things. No built-in student feedback. We haven't got. Well, we're not in that stage yet, actually. Are we, Tabitha? We're just trying to get that first. That first.
Definitely stage 3, isn't it? And so stage 3, part of stage 3, we have a professional development program at the moment where we're asking all the staff to do 5 days of compulsory professional development, all academic staff. One of the things that is compulsory is on assessment and feedback. So if we can tie that in with online feedback, then we can certainly suggest to people that they use questionnaire and feedback modules. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They own their courses, they can do what they like.
Yeah, so student feedback comes to us a lot via the Learning Center. So where students go to get help in their courses. So we do get quite a lot of student feedback via these and pass those on to teachers where we can. During the process, we even had some very pertinent questions from students having asked the teacher to please clean up their courses, which then came to us via the Learning Center. So that was really good. So hopefully we'll now get some feedback from them that it's easier to find things. Yeah. I think since if there's no more questions, I think we're almost done. And hopefully next year we can show you a presentation with brilliant courses. Stage 3.
Please do talk to us further if you have anything else to add or ask using the course forum here in the iMoot, as well as any other way you'd like to contact us. We do have guest access on
The Moodle Standards course and some of our health resources and stuff are guest access.
Thanks, Miriam.
Oh, thank you. That's better than mine.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation and for your time. And yeah, people can stay in the room if they wish, but I'll end the recording there. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.